What's up guys, Viper FPV here, and today I am doing the Raging Droner build from Catalyst Machineworks. So first things first, before we get to the build, I'm not sure how many videos this is going to take. Like all my build videos, sometimes I'm able to do them in one. Most likely this one's going to be probably 2, maybe even 3. But let's go ahead and go over all the components I'm going to be going ahead and use. So first things first, we have the Emax Eco motors, and these are the 2207 1700 kV motors. And take one out so you can see. So we got these are really nice looking motors, especially for $11.99. You cannot beat it. Has a little screw on the bottom, and the bearing feels real smooth, real nice. I have a lot of high hopes for these motors. Want to try some budget motors instead of buying some like T motors that are like $25 a pop. Want to try these out, see how these do. So I got a set of these to use on this. So we'll put those to the side. And then I'm also using this budget option of the Xylo stack. This is from FPV, and I believe it's like $75, and you get the flight controller, and you also get the ESC. I did do a video on this as well, kind of going over all the little pins and all the components. So I'll leave that down in the link down below. And then I'm also using a little AXI stubby antenna to mount in the back of this frame right here. And this, of course, is the Raging Droner frame from Catalyst Machineworks, and it does come. This one came with the canopy, so it's going to look really nice and slick once that's on there. And I tell you, this thing is going to be a real sturdy thing, especially going through gates, hitting the ground. A lot of abuse that this thing's going to get racing. And what else we got here? We also have a Foxier Predator. I believe this is a V3 or a V2. I'm not sure exactly. This is a V3, so yeah. So I'll leave that down in the link below if you want to follow along with the build, or if you want to decide to build this thing yourself. I'll leave everything down below, and those will be affiliate links. So if you want to help the channel out and support me, go ahead and use those affiliate links, and they help me out a lot. So let's go ahead and get to the build. And what we're going to do first is I'm going to have to solder my XT60 on, because there's barely any room to get like up top on this frame. But before we go ahead and start soldering, let me put that on and let the soldering iron warm up. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to start putting my stack screws in, and these did not come with the frame. So I had these laying around, these extra long screws, and I did do a little bit of measuring before I did that, kind of see how the stack will fit in there. And you can tell it's going to fit in there. I have probably a lot more room up here to even go higher if I wanted to use a longer screw. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these plastic screws, nylon screws, and just kind of screw it into the bottom. I like these plastic because it's not conductive, so just in case there's a short or something like that, you don't have to worry about it touching a component or something on the ESC. And I'm not going to put all the screws in this because there's a little lip down here. You have to get that little part right here underneath there, and you can't do it with everything with all the screws in. So I'm going to get like 2 screws in the front in and tighten those down, and then I'm going to go ahead and solder that XT60 on so we can go ahead and start putting everything together. I typically start off with the stack usually, and sometimes I always will start with, depending on the frame. Like on this one, I'm going to definitely put the stack in first because I just want to see how everything's going to line up. But usually I start with the motors first if it's more of an open frame. So you gotta consider, you know, when you're building a frame, you have to make sure that you consider what components do you want to have in it, and where your components are going to go, and what kind of components you need. Like I know this one's definitely, you cannot use individual ESCs on this quad. It'd be really a pain in the butt to have them sticking out on the frame like that. So I use the 401. That's pretty standard too with the racing frames nowadays. A lot of them are going to 401 ESCs. I have really had good success with 401s. I think I have, most of my quads have 401 ESCs on it. I think I only have maybe 2. I think I only have 2 quads out of I think like 10 or so quads I have that actually have ESCs on the arms. Everything else is using a 401 ESC, and I actually have not burned out a 401 ESC in a while. I mean, I have burnt them out, but it's been a little while since I burnt one out. So their quality has came up a long way from what they used to be. So let me go ahead and put some flux here on the pads. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-tin these pads here, so then we can go ahead and start doing some stuff. Still, have we warmed up yet? Not quite yet. Oh, we're starting to warm up. Let's give that a little bit more and see how it goes. While we're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and get my other part ready here. So these are one of these lock. Oh, I really like these types of XT60s that have the lock. You don't have to worry about using shrink wrap or anything like that. Heat shrink. You can kind of just fit these in there already pre-soldered. I usually do add more solder to them because I like a lot of solder on these, so it's nice and strong. And then we also do have the capacitor here to 470. Okay, so we'll go ahead and put that to the side, and then we also have this. Let's go ahead and plug this sucker in right now. And it does come with two pigtails. One on the flight controller, it's a little longer, and one on the ESC. I'm assuming the shorter one we're going to be using. And I shouldn't have to worry about the pins, which I'll check that later. I don't think I'm going to need it. Since it came with everything with it, it should all be good. I'm going to go ahead and plug this in if I can. So I see where the pins are. Okay, so they are up top. If you shove pins in there, it might bend the pins and then you're screwed. I'll short everything out. So I got that there, just like so. Which is really weird. Why would they put the plug like that? Okay. No, that's so weird. Why they did that. They put the plug on the same spot where you need to put your sticking things. Usually it's on the opposite side. And this one, which one's the front? Just gotta make sure I'm using the right one while that's still warming up. So these are the things you have to think about when you're building a flight controller. We actually can mount the receiver right directly to the flight controller. So let's see. I guess we're gonna go ahead and go like that. Actually, like that. Or maybe we'll just flip we can just flip the ESC over too and do it like that too. No, we can't because we need to solder to the pads. Alright, so that's how it's going to be. It's going to have to look like that. Really weird. But that's what it is. So. Alright, well, it feels like I found one little hiccup with the ESC itself. They need to really put that plug somewhere else. But for $74 for an entire stack is not too bad. I really think I need to get a new soldering iron. Because this thing is just on its last leg. This is like one of those cheap $30 soldering irons. Yeah, it's just being terrible today. It's just not like, it will not put the heat into the pad. There we go. That is just terrible soldering. That's looking better now, though. That's better. Alright, so they got that done. Let's go ahead and get our, we can go ahead, I think I'm gonna, while we're doing this, I think this video is gonna be more than 2 videos because I kind of wanted to do an entire build where it's really more uncut. You kind of see the decisions I have to make with building a quad. And I think this would be a perfect video for it since this frame is a little difficult to get to. So I'm just kind of, right now, I'm just kind of fitting it in there. I want to see exactly how long how long I need to make this connector in the back. Do I need to cut any off? And whatnot. So we're going to have our battery hanging out down there. I think we're actually good without cutting it. Because if I need to cut, if it is too long, I can always zip tie it to an arm on the bottom. And that avoids, you'd rather have too long than too short. Because if it's too short, then you can't connect your battery. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my handy dandy helping hands here. And I'm just going to add some more solder to these plugs, to these wires here. Just so it can get a little better adhesion to the XT60. All right. Alrighty. So we got that there. Let's make sure what's plus and minus. Take a closer look. Alright, plus is on the right. So positive, negative. Make sure you don't mix those up or you'll have a bad experience. But we'll be testing everything when we are done. So I'm going to take this little guy and I'm just going to kind of just put him like so. All right. Do the next one. Once you can see my soldering iron is just, I think either I need a new tip or I think I just need to replace it. I almost did buy a Hacko, but then I just didn't do it yet. But it's probably the soldering iron I probably will get though. It'll be one of those Hackos. This is just not wanting me to put some more solder on the soldering iron itself. Okay. And you're kind of far away. Oh, come on. Let's get in there. All right. Let me take a look here. I really don't like it. I'll let that cool off because it's getting a little hot. I'm trying to see if I can clear off my soldering iron. Yeah, it's cleaned off now. Let's see if that helps at all. So you put a little solder on the tip and it helps conduct the heat into whatever joint you're trying to work with. I'm just trying to get a little bit. You know, it is the negative terminal, so I bet you that's probably why it doesn't want to really. Let me turn up my soldering iron a little bit. See if I can get a little more heat. So yeah, these are all the things you have to deal with when you're trying to build a quad. I just hate how that plug right here is like this. It looks so tacky. Especially since I'm going to have a capacitor right here. Terrible. Get FPV, you need to fix that. That needs to go on this side. I agree. Alright, so let's it's probably warmed up a little bit, so let's see. That is a little better. Yeah, that's much better. I think I get a little more heat. So this side too. Let me see if I can retouch this side up. Yep. Good. Alright, you're far away. We're gonna go ahead and start working on this now. And should I get that? I don't know if I should probably put that capacitor in there or not. Let me check. Okay, we got that up there. Oh, I put it in the wrong screws. Dang it. This thing has 20 by 20 mounting and also has a 30 by 30 mounting. So let me cut off real quick and then we'll get right back to continuing. Alright, so I went ahead and I installed the flight controller, and like I said, you have to slide that thing in to the back or you can slide it from the side, but you need to have two of these on just so it can get underneath this lip back here. Let me see if I can get the focus. Yep. So you can kind of see it's really kind of close. Those wires are kind of close to those screws. So I probably will be using some type of liquid electrical tape or something to protect it. And I'm going to be putting that capacitor on later so I can kind of get it where I want it and it doesn't mess with anything. So that's how that's going to be. We can go ahead and do our XT60 at this point. So how you use these things, you just kind of slide it on. Let's make sure it's on the right way. Which I don't believe it matters which way it goes. No, I don't think it does. And you just kind of put this little cap thing on the end. Like I said, I want to put some more solder on here, so let me go ahead and do that real fast. Where is my solder? Let me go ahead and move that up so you guys can see. Since there's already solder on it, it goes pretty quick. And I'm going to put some solder on this as well. On the, what I'll probably do is I'll probably use my little, I have a little, I'm not sure if I ever showed you guys this. I think you probably have. It's made to solder XT60s on. I can leave a link down below this thing too. It's actually really handy because it holds the XT60 where you want it, and then you can just solder your wires to it. So let me get to it. And it has like little clamps here, like so. Yeah, this one's fine. Second one. Like so. And then we're going to put some solder on this thing. Where is my solder? And my iron. Let me clear that off. It's disgusting. And I just kind of put some in the cap, like a little spot where the wire will go in. Okay, so I did that. So I make sure I have plus and minus. Looks like that is minus. No, plus is on. Yeah, plus is to me. So I'm going to take this wire. I'm just going to kind of bend it into it without melting anything. See if I can do this where you guys can see. Make sure that's still the right way. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of try to put it in as straight as I can. Yeah, I'm probably not going to be able to do this way you guys can see. I think that's in. Give it a second to let it kind of just relax for a second. Nobody does anything on this side. I know you guys can't see this one. Just bear with me. Kind of blow on a little bit so it can cool off. Ooh, it's getting hot. Ooh, should probably using some pliers or something, but I can't find my stinking needleable pliers at all. I really don't care much how that's soldered on there. That one's good. It's just this negative wire is kind of shitty. So let me fix that real quick. So I'm gonna flow some more solder onto it. Yeah, I'm gonna take that. Let me get some pliers or something. I guess I'll just use these to hold it. And works like a charm. There we go. Another little trick too, if you're burning XT60s, you can connect the other side to the plug, and you should be able to, it'll avoid it melting and discombobulating the pins on the XT60. It adds a little more metal to it. So I don't like it. Let me put it this way. See, this is the things you have to go through. I'm not trying to cut everything out, because usually I cut a lot of stuff out of my videos, like the like my other builds. I usually try to shorten them up, but I really want to kind of do a complete build, maybe even set this thing up in beta flight for you guys and and go from there. All right, that's good. Much better than what it looked like. Sorry, I had to do that a lot closer to myself. So that is done. Take this off. And then we can do is just take this little piece here, and it slides in. And let's give it a little force, and it'll pop into that little clip up there. There it goes. You hear it clip, and that's done. So that's the XT60 done. And let's while I have this out too, I need to actually take this wiring for the 4-in-1 and try to get that in there too without messing anything up. See if I can get something to grab this with. I really need to find my needles pliers because those were like my main soldering tools. I think my son stole them somewhere. Alright, got that in there. Okay, so we got our 4-in-1 pretty much mounted. And then we also have our XT60 all done. What I'm going to do probably now is go ahead and start probably dry fitting to see how this flight controller is going to go on there. And with that out of my way, I kind of just want to see if I can use a spacer in there just to separate them too. I'm surprised that the combo stack did not come with some spacers. Usually they come with some type of plastic spacer or anything, but I have tons of them in my bin. Let's see here. Just gotta make sure I'm using the right ones. It's either I'm going to use one of these taller ones. Nope, it's too tall. We're going to probably use some more plastic screws, nylon screws. So I have 1, 2, 3, and then we have 4. So before we go ahead and mount that, so I'm going to kind of just judge to see how it's going to look, how much space it's going to take up. Don't think about that much space. Yeah, so I'm kind of just judging when I look at this to see how much space it's going to go with a screw in there. So I know that's going to work. So I'm going to put those to the side. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start mounting our motors onto the arms. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. And these motors do come with, they come with the lock nuts, they come with some more motor screws, but we're not going to be using these motor screws that it comes with because on the Raging Droner, it has this arm here that comes in, so it's going to be a really big screw going on the back. So 2 short ones and then 2 long ones is what's pretty much what we're going to be doing. And I had those all already separated over here. I'm going to go ahead and put these screws on. And when you're ever putting motor screws on, you always use some type of Loctite. So I do have Loctite here. This came with a quad box I got. So it's real handy. So I'll screw a little dab on there. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and start installing these motors. And like to go ahead and do is get yourself the screws that it came with. And put these screws in there. So get some dabs of, that's how much, I don't put very much. I'm trying to see if you can see. No, I'm not going to get a focus. But I really just dip it in there, and there's like a little tiny bit, as you can see right there, on it. So that's pretty much as I put on the screws. And I'm doing the back ones first, and so let's take the normal screws. Get my handy dandy screw out here. I'll just screw those suckers in. And I don't put them all the way tight yet. I just kind of just snug them up so that I can move them around. There's the other one. As well. this one too. Screw that one in there. And the last one. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of them in there. And then what we'll be back with is putting the, showing you how I'm going to go ahead and route the wiring to the ESC. And then once I've got all 4 of them in, I'm going to go ahead and tighten them down. You don't want to make them too tight, you want to make them tight, but you can strip this out because it is aluminum. So, and there you go. So it's 1 motor in. So I'm going to go ahead and do all 4, and then I'll be right back. Alright, so I installed all the motors onto the frame, as you see. Look real nice, look good. And you notice too, is I also started routing the wiring. So I'm going to go ahead and go underneath this arm, this little brace here, come up to this little space in here, and then I'm going to come around this standoff, that's my plan, and to come through and go right underneath there. I figured that will be the most protected since I'm running them on the right, like underneath on the side here on the arms. It'll protect it from any prop strikes or anything like that hitting it. So we don't have to worry about repairing a motor wire if it does get hit by a prop. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and start getting these wires ready to solder to the ESC. And how I go ahead and do that is I'm going to get my little side cutters here. Actually, I might first go ahead and zip tie these so then this keeps this from moving. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take some zip ties here. I'm not going to put them too tight. That's why I'm tight enough where I can move this back and forth how I want. Just so then we can have a little play room if we do need to play with it. So I'm going to do that to all 4 sides here. Let's make sure this one is straight how I want it. And pull this wire tight. That's good. Do the other side. And I'm making like the little nub point inwards. Get that nice and tight. Not too tight though. And the same on this one. So like I said, this is going to be a multi-part video. More than probably 2. Because I just want to go in more detail of building a quad. Especially for some new people that might be on the channel and they maybe never built a quad before. Because I'm telling you, building your own quad is definitely the way to go. I mean, you should build a plug and fly or a bind and fly. Those are fun to play with. But there's nothing like picking your own components and building it yourself. That satisfaction, you know? Alright, so I got this done. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to... see, now I didn't put the nuts on top of the ESC yet. Just because usually when you have solder, you're soldering with the soldering tip, you usually hit it and you melt it. So I don't want to do that. Actually might need to. I guess we'll have to depend on how tight we make these wires, right? So I don't want them too tight to where it's going to interfere with the nut. So it would be actually a good idea to put it on and then maybe take it off. But I'm going to go ahead and do this right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and solder this one up here. And I'm going to trim it back and all that good stuff. So what I'm going to do is I see where the pad is. It's kind of like in there a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trim this like that. And let me go ahead and zoom in on the video so we can go ahead and see a little better. Alright, so I went ahead and zoomed in. You can kind of see a little better what I'm doing. So I'm making sure I have a little loop in the middle here. So it'll clear this standoff. And then I'm just going to kind of put it there. And then I'm going to cut. Don't worry, it's not too perfect. You just want it enough. You'd rather have it too long than have it too short, if you know what I'm saying. So now I'm going to have that one like so, like that. So then we need to have our next wire come along. You want to make sure they lay flat so they clear the flight controller as well. So I'm going to have that one like so. Yeah, like that one. Just like that, and make a little bigger loop. So each one you go next to it, you're going to make a bigger loop and bigger loop. Just so you get that space you needed to take all the flat. So I got all those cut. I'm going to strip this real quick. And I know you can go ahead and use some wire strippers or whatever. I like to go ahead and use just a side cutter. You just got to be careful not to clip it too much. Since it is silicone wire, it pretty much does slide. Because the silicone covering comes off really easy. And I'm taking off about 3 millimeters. Well, 3, yeah. That's all I should say, yeah. And then we'll trim it up too after we solder it. Just like that. I'm going to twist the wire a little bit. Put those right there for now. I'm going to go ahead and get my flux. Just making sure that this is down right. Yep. Okay. Get my flux. Put on the pads. You can put a little bit of flux on the wires too. And I'm going to get my soldering iron out. This frame is definitely a little bit difficult to build on because you do have these side plates. You have to be very conscious of exactly where you're running all your wiring. So I went ahead and I pre-tinned that. Let's go ahead and start tinning these wires up. And if this is your first time soldering, definitely make sure you're not soldering on top of the flight controller, because you can get a blob on the ESC and it can cause some problems. Definitely if you don't have like a soldering wick or whatnot, which I do have a soldering wick just in case I do have a problem, but they'll pretty much went on good. Alright, so let's go ahead and get... See, I don't have my freaking needle nose pliers. I need to find those things. Next video, I'm finding them. I gotta find where they put them. So I'm gonna try to get in here. I'm gonna try and move these wires out of my way. And get this first one here. You know, let me try to use a pair of tweezers. Oh, even better. Some tweezers I got here. Let's see. That might actually work better. See if I can get this to where you guys can see too, because that side plate's kind of messing up the shot, huh? So I believe this is mine. Yeah, this is definitely the one I used for the front. So let me fix that wire. That wire is definitely in the wrong way. This one needs to go forward. I'll take that out, and I'm gonna take that out of there so then I have less wires to mess with. Okay, so this is the one I need to put onto the first pad here. I'm trying to make it to where it's... Well, actually, I need to pre-tin that pad first, don't I? Go ahead and do that. Right. There we go. Alright. All three done. Like that. And let's go ahead and put these wires on now. See if I can get this in the shot. And I know my soldering skills aren't the best. I am not a professional. I did not do this for NASA. I did not do this for anything. I pretty much learned how to solder by watching YouTube videos and figuring it out, you know? trying to get that so it's actually, there we go. That's one. I believe that goes to that one. Let me get the other one that I pulled out to keep it from messing with me. There it is. So this is number 2. Yeah, you can tell which one's number 2, which one's not, because they're different lengths of the wire. Alright, so we got that right there. And I'm just gonna get the pad, make sure that's flat, and then we're gonna do the next one. That's definitely acceptable to me. So yeah, that's all 3 of them wired in there. Just making sure the wire's all flat coming out, so then I can clear the screw that I'm going to put on there and also the flight controller. So I'm going to go ahead and solder the rest of these up, and then we'll be right back. Alright, so I went ahead and got the ESCs, the wiring done, soldering done. So that is it. And then I went ahead and installed the screws, but I wanted to show you one little thing before we end this video. The next video we'll go ahead and do the flight controller, but let me go ahead and make sure this is focused. Make sure it'll focus for me, please. Alright, we'll just manually focus you. Okay, so we got focused as best I could. When you're tightening these screws down, see how this one's really squished? That's too much. This one is just right. It's just a little tiny bit of squish, and you just want barely squishing it so that it gives it, you know, it's tight, but not too much to where these gummies are going to be just smushed down like that where they can't even move. But that's how you want to go ahead and screw it down. So if you do it that, just go ahead and back it off a few turns till you see something more like that. You can even be a little less than that. And that's probably good, but just make sure that you do this when you do build when you're putting the stack screws on. That does help out with reducing vibration in the gyro. So, but that is it for this video here. I appreciate you guys watching. In the next video, we're gonna go ahead and install the flight controller, and then probably another video after that, we'll go ahead and finish it up. But I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys in another video. Peace.